Good evening all. Welcome to the launch of the William Ah Ket Scholarship for 2021. My name is Kelvin Ng and I'm the president of the Victorian branch of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association, as well as being a joint winner of the William Ah Ket Scholarship all the way back in 2018. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today, which for me in Melbourne are the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have joined us for this event. Now, this is the fourth iteration of the William Ah Ket Scholarship, which was held from 2017 to 2019 and held over in 2020 due to COVID-19. We're glad that it's been able to get up and running again this year. The scholarship is an annual scholarship awarded to the applicant who produces the most outstanding research paper on a topic relating to equality, diversity, and the legal profession or law. It seeks to encourage persons at a junior stage of their legal career in Australia to contribute to the discourse on cultural diversity and diversity and inclusion more broadly in the law. The scholarship is proudly sponsored by Maddocks, the law firm at which William Ah Ket completed his articles, and supported by the University of Melbourne. Further, the AALA is pleased that the scholarship is supported by William Ah Ket's family, some of whom are in attendance tonight, including Ms. Blossom Ah Ket, his great-granddaughter, Ms. Jennifer Wood, Ms. Laura Singh, Dr. Leslie Crowe-Delaney, and Ms. Sharon Prentice. Now, as you may have gathered, the scholarship is named in honour of William Ah Ket. William Ah Ket was the first Asian Australian barrister who practised at the Victorian Bar in the early 20th century, blazing a trail for others to follow in his wake, challenging discriminatory laws and fostering international relations. Tonight's keynote address will be delivered by the Honourable Anne Ferguson, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria. Chief Justice Anne Ferguson was appointed as the 12th Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria in October 2017. The Chief Justice is also the chair of the Judicial College of Victoria, the Courts Council, and the Judicial Commission. Please give Her Honour a warm welcome.
Good evening. I would like to begin by acknowledging and paying respect to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners of the land where I am today, and to pay my respects to ancestors of this country, the Wurundjeri elders, knowledge holders, and leaders, past and present. I would also like to acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional owners and custodians of the lands from which you all join us today, and likewise pay my respects to those elders, knowledge holders and leaders, past and present. Thank you, Mr. Ng, for your very warm welcome. I want to thank the Asian Australian Lawyers Association for your invitation to speak at the launch of the William Ah Ket Scholarship 2021 tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. I also acknowledge Maddocks, who sponsor the scholarship, and the Melbourne Law School, who support it, together with the members of the AALA William Ah Ket Scholarship Committee, members of Mr. Ah Ket's family, my state and federal judicial colleagues, and the many other distinguished guests who have joined us online today. My first discussions with the William Ah Ket Committee about being involved in the scholarship were in February 2020. Unfortunately, as has been mentioned, due to the coronavirus pandemic, the scholarship had to be postponed last year. You've waited a long time to celebrate this launch. I was looking forward to meeting with you all in person tonight and presenting this speech, which was to be my first in-person speech since March 2020. As a firm supporter of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association and its vision, I thought there was no better occasion. But unfortunately, life during a pandemic is never predictable, and here we are meeting remotely once again. I would sincerely like to commend the organisers for their flexibility and determination in the face of changing restrictions. We may not be meeting in person tonight, but the significance of this event is undiminished in my eyes. Before I talk more about the scholarship, I would like to briefly reflect further on the past 15 months. 2 weeks after I accepted your invitation to speak at the launch of last year's scholarship, I needed to suspend jury trials and events at the Supreme Court in line with public health advice. At no time did the court close. Instead, we accelerated the virtual courtroom journey that we had already begun and significantly changed the way we operated. Most of the change took place in the first 21 days. We held more than 2,500 virtual hearings between March and June alone, with most of our operations fully remote by April 2020. There were teething issues in the first few weeks as people got used to the technology and a new way of hearing matters. I know firsthand how tricky the mute button can be. We saw more change in a single year than we would have in 5 years. We didn't ask for change the way it arrived, but the pandemic caused us to fast forward our plans and rethink what else we could do differently and better in the future. We're now learning from those lessons, looking at what changes we can keep, all the while ensuring that the standard of justice is maintained. I am deeply grateful to Victoria's legal profession for their perseverance, patience, and goodwill. Serving the community is not limited to what happens on the bench. What happens at the bar table and in the broader profession is also critically important. Tonight we are honouring the legacy of someone renowned for their skills in that space, William Ah Ket. As many of you know, Mr. Arquette studied law at the University of Melbourne, where he achieved a distinguished academic record. In 1902, he won the Supreme Court Judges Prize for Article Clerks. He served his articles at Madoc and Jamieson, now Maddox. He signed the Victorian Bar roll in 1904 and is believed to be the first barrister of Chinese descent to practice in Victoria and possibly Australia. Former Australian Prime Minister Sir Robert Menzies once wrote of Mr. Arquette, "William Ah Ket did not ever sit on the bench, though he would have been a very competent judge. He was a sound lawyer and a good advocate." I would like to briefly reflect on those words. What does it mean to be a sound lawyer and a good advocate? In my time as a young lawyer, then as a partner in law firms, and now as a judge, there are some fundamental pillars that were modelled by Mr. Arquette more than a century ago that I believe still apply today. I would like to share those with you tonight. First of all, technical ability is important. We know that Mr. Arquette was widely respected at the Victorian Bar for his technical ability as a barrister. We can draw this from the record. An article in Melbourne's Herald newspaper reporting on his death in 1936 memorialised him as a talented cross-examiner within the front rank of pleaders. His flair in mathematics gave him an edge in insolvency law matters, where he was regarded as an authority. He was a strong believer in settling disputes through arbitration and apparently settled more matters than any other member of the Victorian Bar. He appeared in the High Court of Australia on a number of occasions, successfully challenging the application of the Immigration Restriction Act, also known as the White Australia Policy, as well as the so-called Victorian Factory Acts, which imposed restrictions on Chinese factory workers. He was, in short, a lawyer of considerable intellect and prowess, a man ahead of his time. Were he practising today, I have no doubt he would be among the highest performing at the Victorian Bar. Indeed, in today's world, I would like to think he would be offered and accept a position as a judge. But to be a sound lawyer and good advocate requires more than technical ability. It requires perseverance and the ability to bounce back from setbacks. For Mr. Arquette to achieve what he did at the bar in the early 20th century was no easy feat. He excelled in the law during a renewed wave of discrimination against people of Chinese descent in Australia. That discrimination was enshrined in legislation and prevalent in community attitudes at the time. To achieve what he did in a conservative profession and during such an era would have required significant skill and a good measure of resilience and perseverance. I believe we can learn a lot from those attributes. Mr. Arquette's legacy shows a solicitor or barrister should focus on being the best lawyer they can be, not just focus on doing the job competently, but striving to improve at every opportunity, no matter the hurdles that may come along. It is important never to give up. While the discrimination Mr. Arquette faced in the 1900s has thankfully improved, structural barriers still exist, both in society and within the legal profession. These barriers exist along gendered lines as well as along cultural and racial lines. When workplaces and professions reflect the communities they serve, they will always be better equipped to serve the interests of the community. Ideally, the composition of the judiciary, the legal profession, and other organisations would reflect the gender, cultural, and ethnic diversity of Australian society. There is a long way to go in this regard. We are slowly making progress, however. Welcoming different perspectives and seeking input from different voices from a range of backgrounds can lead to better outcomes. As Tian Long, the winner of the most recent William Ah Ket Scholarship in 2019, wrote in her essay, when strong, intelligent members of diverse communities have a seat at the table, they are in a position to question existing biases and call out unacceptable behaviour, fostering a culture of great respect in the legal system. Lawmakers, decision makers, and practitioners with different life experiences and values make the law more representative of the variety of human experience and therefore more responsive to community needs. That is what tonight is about. The William Ah Ket Scholarship is awarded to a person who in the early stages of their career becomes part of the discourse on diversity and inclusion in the law and legal profession. It is fitting that entry to the scholarship is limited to lawyers who are starting out. Young lawyers, like you, have the ability to change the face of the legal profession. I would like to conclude by offering some advice to each of you. As you progress through your careers, good advocacy is critical, and there are many ways to achieve that. Sometimes it's not possible for a lawyer to increase the scope and range of their advocacy in their paid job. A very good way to address that is to take on some unpaid pro bono work. Pro bono work enables both new and more experienced practitioners to make a contribution to the community. It's an opportunity to develop legal expertise and advocacy skills, broaden professional networks, and provide access to justice for people who can't afford it. Having a mentor to learn from is also very important. I congratulate the Asian Australian Lawyers Association for running a successful mentoring program in recent years, and I understand the program is continuing this year. Mentors can act as a sounding board and help you to work through some challenging issues. Sometimes it's just good to have someone to talk to. For those seeking a mentor or looking to mentor someone, my advice is don't assume they will or should share the same characteristics as you. Sometimes the best mentors are those who are completely different and have had a different experience to your own. I want to leave you with this thought. What the profession will look like in 10, 20 or 50 years' time is up to you. Don't wait for someone else to act. Each of us has a role to play. You can be influential. You are all making an extremely valuable contribution to something important, and I'm delighted to be here with you supporting it. The pandemic has taught us that change is part of daily life. We can either see change as an adversary, or we can view it as an opportunity to demonstrate how adaptable and creative we can be under pressure. I wish you all the best in the months that lie ahead. I look forward to hearing about the positive changes that will come from the William Ah Ket Scholarship in 2021. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reynah Tang. I'm a founder and inaugural president of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association. On behalf of the William Ah Ket Scholarship Committee and everyone that has joined us for this event, I would like to warmly thank the Chief Justice, the Honourable Anne Ferguson, for a wonderful and engaging speech tonight. Her Honour has reminded us of the important legacy of William Ah Ket and what we, as contemporary lawyers, can learn from the attributes that he modelled, including not just technical ability, but also resilience, perseverance, and working for change. On the last point, I think it's important to recognise that Arquette was not only the first Asian Australian barrister, but can also be counted as one of Australia's earliest human rights lawyers, who successfully advocated in the High Court for the right of James Minahan, a man of Chinese and English heritage, to return to his place of birth after years growing up in China and suffering the ignominy of failing the infamous dictation test upon his return. Unless we think that case is of historical relevance only, one need only look at the recent decision in Love and Toms against the Commonwealth of Australia, where the High Court reaffirmed the principles from Potter and Minahan in holding that our First Nations people cannot be aliens subject to deportation, despite holding foreign citizenship. Again, I'd like to thank the Chief Justice, who will shortly need to depart to attend to the pressing demands of ensuring our justice system remains fully functioning amidst another period of COVID-induced lockdown, for her speech tonight. I'm sure that her honours speech will serve to inspire our young lawyers, not only to get involved and submit a paper for the scholarship, but ultimately to strive to use their knowledge and skills to make a difference and improve our civil society, just as Arquette did at the start of the 20th century.
Thank you, Reynah. My name is Jenny Si, and I am the Secretary of the Victorian branch of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association, and I'm a member of the Scholarship Committee. I would now like to invite Professor Sarah Biddulph to say a few words on behalf of the University of Melbourne. Professor Sarah Biddulph is Professor of Law at Melbourne Law School and Director of its Asian Law Centre. She is also Assistant Deputy Vice-Chancellor, International China at the University of Melbourne and a member of the judging panel for this year's scholarship.
The University of Melbourne is delighted to join the Asian Australian Lawyers Association and Maddocks in supporting the William Ah Ket Scholarship for 2021. The university is proud to count William Ah Ket as one of its most famous alumni. William graduated in law from the University of Melbourne in 1897 and was admitted to practice in 1903 after completing his articles with the law firm Maddock and Jameson, as Maddocks was then known. He went on to enjoy a distinguished career as a barrister, as an advocate for the fight against discrimination, and as a champion for cultural diversity and harmony. William also spent time as a diplomat, serving as acting consul general for China in the period between 1913 and 1917. We are very keen to support efforts to promote the legacy of William Ah Ket and to explore the relevance of that legacy in a contemporary context. At the Asian Law Centre, we have produced a video of a panel discussion about William Ah Ket as part of our Asian Legal Conversations COVID-19 webinar series. In addition, my colleague Andrew Godwin is leading efforts to collect information about William Ah Ket and to help tell his story. In this regard, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to the members of the Arquette family and others who have so generously come forward to share information about William. As we pursue our own journey of discovery, we continue to come across interesting facts about William Ah Ket and traces of his legacy. For example, through the kind efforts of Honourable Michael Black, the former Chief Justice of the Federal Court of Australia, we have recently learned that William's collection of law reports is currently held in the chambers of the Chief Justice of the Federal Court. In addition, we have recently learned that Julian McMahon SC, that he previously occupied the same room that William Ah Ket occupied on the 3rd floor of Equity Chambers in Bourke Street. Julian also has a transcript of a chat where an old barrister referred to him as Willie. And we're looking forward to receiving any other discoveries that Julian might find in his chambers. For those of you who would like to learn more, I would recommend that you visit the website of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association and also the public gallery in Owen Dixon Chambers West, where a William Ah Ket display has been installed and where his portrait will be unveiled later this year. The display includes objects and medals presented to William during his lifetime, and also a copy of the memoirs of Sir Robert Menzies, in which Menzies refers to William Ah Ket as a great friend and a phenomenon at the Victorian Bar. Finally, I would like to congratulate the Asian Australian Lawyers Association for the launch of the William Ah Ket Scholarship for 2021 and extend my best wishes to all those of you who submit an entry. Might I encourage you to submit an entry? It would be wonderful if we had many applicants. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is William Lye. I am the chair of the William Ah Ket Scholarship Committee. Can I begin by echoing the acknowledgements already made to our First Nations peoples as the traditional owners and ongoing custodians of the land in which we are now separately located due to the lockdown in Victoria. I would also like to acknowledge Chief Justice Anne Ferguson for her support and delivery of the keynote speech. It is my honor to formally launch the William Ah Ket Scholarship this year, and on behalf of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association. But before I do that formally, I would like to speak briefly about the scholarship itself. 15 years ago, the idea of creating a scholarship to recognize the legacy of Victoria's first, and indeed Australia's first barrister of Chinese descent was put forward by my wife. It was not until 2017 that we, the Asian Australian Lawyers Association, were able to launch the first William Ah Ket Scholarship essay competition with a $5,000 prize for the winner. We are grateful for the ongoing support of our inaugural sponsor, Medics, for their generous financial contribution to the scholarship. The winner this year will receive $6,000 and the 2 runners-up will each receive $1,000. William Ah Ket was foremost a Victorian, an Australian, and a Wangaratten, if there's such a thing. He was an alumni of the University of Melbourne, an article clerk at Maddox, Johnson, and Jamieson, as they were then known and now known as Maddox, a barrister and solicitor admitted to the Supreme Court of Victoria, and a member of the Victorian Bar, whose roll number was 88, being a lucky number to the Chinese. The William Ah Ket Scholarship is open to Australian residents, including permanent residents and foreign student visa holders, who are admitted lawyers in any Australian jurisdiction, or law graduates currently undertaking practical legal training or a legal traineeship, or to final year law students who have had not less than 4 weeks legal work experience or completed a legal clerkship in Australia or overseas. So what is the topic then for this year's scholarship? In his paper, The Chinese and the Factories Acts, published on 10th September 1906, William Ah Ket said, and I quote, "When wholesale condemnation is indulged in concerning a race, which must necessarily include good, bad, and indifferent, the unbiased mind will naturally inquire whether the whole truth is being told or whether, on the other hand, either ignorant prejudice or improper motive underlies such sweeping charges. So the question that participants who express their interest and write a paper is asked to then answer or provide their thoughts and opinion is, how can the Australian legal profession and or judiciary or wider legal system be improved to ensure the unbiased mind is brought to bear and the whole truth is being told. This year, we are privileged to have as the judging panel, the Honorable Diana Bryant, AOQC, who we all know was the former Chief Justice of the Family Court of Australia and more recently appointed as the national patron of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association. We also have on that panel Professor Sarah Biddulph and David Newman, the CEO of Maddox. On behalf of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association and the committee, I'd like to thank them for agreeing to be on the judging panel. For those of you in attendance, the senior legal practitioners, and by that I mean those who are not able to qualify to express their interest, that is all of you over 5 years post-admission. On behalf of the Asian Australian Lawyers Association and the William Ah Ket Scholarship Committee, I'm pleased and honored to formally launch the 2021 William Ah Ket Scholarship.
We have come to the end of the formal proceedings and we will have a general Q&A after this. But before we do that, I want to formally thank some people. We are very grateful for the support of Honorable Anne Ferguson, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria, for the launch today and for her very inspiring address. We are also very happy to have with us today the Honorable Diana Bryant, AOQC, who has joined us in the audience, the former Chief Justice of the Family Court of Australia, who has very kindly taken on the role of our national patron, and we thank her for her support. We are also very thankful to our principal sponsors, Maddox, for their continued support of this scholarship since its inception, especially partner Jason Silvery. We are also very fortunate to have the Melbourne Law School come on board this year as a partner, and also for providing us with an online platform for to host today's event, which would otherwise have also been hosted at the law school in person. The law school has been separately working on highlighting William Ah Ket's legacy, and our scholarship ties in very well with that work. We are grateful to Professor Andrew Godwin for bringing this partnership to life, as well as Professor Sarah Biddulph for her address today and sharing the work that the law school is doing in regards to promoting William Ah Ket's legacy. I also want to thank the Dean of Melbourne Law School, Professor Pip Nicholson, who has always been supportive of our work and who has always thrown open the doors of the law school time and again for us when we have asked for that. I also want to thank Dorothy Nyo and Emily Holt from the Events Committee of MLS, Melbourne Law School, for assisting with the technical aspects of running the event online. The scholarship is also supported by William Ah Ket's family, some of whom are in attendance today, including Miss Blossom Ah Ket, his great-granddaughter, Miss Jennifer Wood, Miss Loris Hing, Dr. Leslie Crow Delaney, and Miss Sharon Prentice. And we are thankful to them for their trust and faith in us. I cannot thank the organizing committee enough, of which I was also a part of, for the amount of work that they have put into making today happen and happen successfully, despite the sudden announcement of restrictions, because of which we had to change the format. The members of the committee comprised of William Lye OAM QC, the chair, Jenny C, Professor Andrew Godwin from the Melbourne Law School, Jason Silvery from Maddox, Reynah Tang AM, Kingsley Liu, myself, Kelvin Ng, Sean Yun Yip, and Kerry Trong. Thank you all for your hard work and for diligently attending the 8 a.m. weekly meetings, which kept the ball rolling. I would particularly like to thank Jenny, who has done a lot of background work in organizing today. I also want to mention Maria Golika, the President of New South Wales branch, and thank her for assisting with the graphic design. And finally, I want to thank all of you for attending despite the changed format and for your interest in this program.